Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, so welcome to the Hacktoberfest event. Hacktoberfest is an event run by DigitalOcean and a few other sponsors to promote open source, contributing to open source projects by giving you free t-shirts. You need to contribute to 4 projects to get this free t-shirt, and I believe nowadays you have to get those PR requests approved as well. Is that true?
Yeah.
So if you want to see, if you want to sign up to the Hacktoberfest website, wait, I'll screen share there.
If you're in your team as well, there's the tab in the general that you can go to. Yeah.
So I've created a little handy tab here for Hacktoberfest, and this will automatically bring you to the link for the Hacktoberfest website. If you want it in dark mode, you can click there, or white mode. And you just need to click on Start Hacking. You also need a GitHub account. So you sign in with your GitHub account. If you do not have a GitHub account, go ahead and create one. It should be a simple enough process. It's like creating an account for pretty much anything else. So once you have your GitHub account, just sign in with your GitHub account and everything should be okay. I need to get my password. And I am going to cancel that while I put in my secret code. All right. So once verified, you should join into this kind of page. I believe at first you have to watch a video, which I've already done, but you can skip the video if you want. You can click on the progress bar for the video and go to the very end of the video, and then you can continue on to the next page and you'll be here. This is now set up with your GitHub account, so for signing up to Hacktoberfest, that's all you need to do. The next part will be having to contribute to different projects. And to show you how to do this, I'm introducing you to Noah, who's from Sourcegraph. Sourcegraph is a company based in San Francisco. You can take the floor now, Noah.
Stephen, did you mute me? I was talking there and no one was responding. Stephen's also muted. Okay, great. Hello everyone. I will be going through a short introduction on how to use Git, that big scary thing everyone's on about, but no one actually knows. This is me. As Ford introduced, I work as a code intelligence engineer for Sourcegraph, and I work with graphs, which is fun. Not when you're in college, but it is once you're out. These slides are very strongly inspired by Mr. Ellenblock slides, whose slides were inspired by Adam Gilson's, all previous members of Netsoc. So what is Git? The official term is, it is a free and open source distributed version control system designed to handle everything from small to very large projects with speed and efficiency. If you've no idea what that means, no one else does. So let's try again. It's a system in which developers like you and me can track changes in files across the timeline, and then you can merge timelines if you want to incorporate other developers' changes in your timelines. Don't what that means either? Yeah, we're on the same page at least. So what is GitHub compared to Git? It's the most popular site for hosting these Git repositories. It expands on it by providing a load of tools, a UI, all the nice stuff that makes it a much more accessible place for people to get used to. Basically, GitHub is to Git what, yeah, you can fill in the gap yourself. But why should you use it? If you're in first year or second year, or maybe even later, you've probably just copy-pasted files around to keep backups of them. And maybe you're just getting sick of that. Or you've been using Google Docs to collaborate code and you realize this is just not the way to go. We've all been there. I know I definitely have. A dark time of the past. So how does Git work? So this is just going to be a brief introduction to some basic high-level concepts. Code in Git is stored altogether in what's called a repository. The repository can be one or more projects with a load of code files and whatever else. And the timeline is composed of commits. Each commit is a change set of files, who created those changes, and then some sort of description message. What does GitHub do on top of that? It's basically like a social media of sorts for Git. It gives a nice UI for collaborating with users across the world, with user profiles and stuff like that. Users can fork other people's repositories, which is basically causing a snapshot or a copy of someone's repository to appear under your own account. You can then make changes to this copy, the fork, and then open what is a pull request to the original repository, which is basically asking the original person to pull their changes into their repository. That is the merging of timelines that I mentioned earlier on. Forks, pull requests, copy paste just easier. It really was, but here we are. So there's different ways that you can use Git. Usually the default way, and generally the more advanced way, is just to use the command line. But there's loads of other ways to use it as well. You can use the desktop clients. You can do it almost completely in the browser. There's also integrations into your editors like Visual Studio Code and so forth. I'm just going to show the command line and then a bit of doing it in Visual Studio Code because it's just handy to have it all in the one editor that you might be using. So we'll start off with the first basic operation is cloning. Basically what that does is it downloads a copy of the repository from, for example, GitHub onto your computer. So use git clone and then the link to the repository. If we go to this one, for example, you will see we've got one repository here. There's nothing in it yet. That's why it gives you some instructions of what you could do. And then once you've run that, you've got it on your computer. Now, let's say you're not part of the UCC Netsoc organization. What you could do then is to fork the repository as it is here. And then instead of the URL being under UCC Netsoc, it would be under your username. So that would be your own or a copy of the repository. So let's say you've made some changes. You've added a file sample.txt. If you want to see in the command the changes you've made, what you run is git status. And that will show you a few things like what has been changed, what has been added, and what has been removed. So now you want to create your commit. That is, add the changes to the timeline. So first what you need to do is select which files you want to include in this next commit. You do that with the git add command. So in this case, we want to add sample.txt to the next commit. Once we've added everything to the commit that we want to commit, we then commit these changes and we can add a message with this In this case, it's just hello Reddit, but it can be whatever you want. Usually the more descriptive, the better, just so other people know why, how, whatever else. Now, to get your changes from your local cloned copy back up onto GitHub, you very simply just do git push to push the changes up to GitHub. If this is all going over your head, don't worry, we'll be doing an example later on. Now that you've pushed your changes, you can open the pull request to get it up into the original repository. So this example, let's get clone the repository. So now I can go into the repository, create a file. Once I've opened up the folder. So let's create a file, sample.txt. Eric is being banned from Netsoc for sins against the committee. So now we'll go ahead and git add sample.txt. If we check the status, you can see that it says here now that these are the changes that will be committed. Sample.txt, git commit, Eric is being banned, and this details why. So now we can see that this commit has been created. If we go to git log, you can see the list of commits so far, and this is the only one so far. So that's why this shows up. Now let's push it. And check out on GitHub. And there's the file, sample.txt. And that's that. Now let's try create a fork so that we can show what a pull request is like. So in this case, I've got multiple organizations and stuff like that. Don't mind that. We're just going to click on my user profile so that it's being forked to my account. So now that's done. Let's go up here. Git clone. Now instead of the Netsoc one, we want to clone my own fork. And I need to delete the folder first. I am being very smart right now. There we go. So let's open up the folder again. And we're here. No, we're not here. Don't you just love a demo that doesn't work? Delete. Open this. Let's make it much easier. Hacktoberfest. There we go. So let's ban us. I choose Planket for going out for food at 5 PM at Fosden. I wish I did too. So now again, we've made a change. So we need to git add it to the next commit. Git commit this change. Planket also gets the ban hammer. That commit has been made. And now we also push this change, but this time it's to my fork instead. And I will show you the difference here now. As you can see here, this time to my fork, there have been 2 commits, but if we go to the original one, there is only 1. So now how do we get my changes from my fork into the upstream? By creating a pull request. So here, before we create the pull request, we can compare what's been going on between the upstream, which is UCC Netsoc's original repository, compared to my fork. There's a lot of things going on in this UI at the moment. You can ignore most. You'll see here, there's been one changed file with a few changes here. So let's go ahead and start creating the pull request. Banning members of UCC Netsoc for crimes against the committee. So here we can do a few different things. We can assign people to review the commits and changes. In this case, let's choose Oshin, our current chairperson. We can add labels if we want, such as this is something we want extra help. That's a good first issue, even though that doesn't make much sense. So now before we get that, we can review it all one more time. This is the title. These are the changes. We're assigning Oshin to review it. Hopefully he's still listening and hasn't fallen asleep. Let's create it. And now we can see here, here's the full thing. It's listed here that there's one pull request for this repository. We can see here, these are the changes. You can see the amount of commits that have happened in the meantime. As you can remember, there has been one commit that was made in my fork, but not in UCC Netsoc's repository. So it shows up here, and it looks like someone commented. This is Eric, the person that is being banned. As you can see, he's clearly not very happy. We don't care, so this conversation is resolved. Now we're just waiting for Oshin to approve it, and he's approved it. We're good to merge this now. Let's smash the merge button, which is the merging of timelines. Confirm. And it is done. If we now go to look at the code, we can see that there have been 3 commits. Now that's strange because there was only one commit difference. What's going on here? So basically, let's see if we can get some view with that. The forks graph, nope, network graph. Let's zoom in and hope this cooperates. And it's lagging. So this here is the original commit that was made. Here is where I made the fork, and this is the commit I made. Now, when merging 2 timelines together, what it does is it creates a new commit that incorporates this timeline with this timeline. That's why there are 3 commits now instead of what we would have expected as 2. If there's any questions, you can poke someone in the chat about it. I'm sure Oshin and Eric will be happy to help you understand. So that's one demo gone. Reviewing, we've seen that. In this case, we asked Oshin to review that pull request. A lot of times these changes are going to be a lot bigger than that. You'll want to make sure that does this code work, do the tests pass, things like that. And you can request changes, things like that. So maintainers, generally, they spend a lot of time, if it's a popular repository, reviewing different pull requests from different people. That's why having a good UI like it is on GitHub can make things a lot easier. No demo because Oshin was not asleep. He was on the ball. Any questions? Put them in the chat, then we will get to you as you go through the rest of the event today. Here are some links if you want to read some guides and the official documentation. This link to these slides will be posted in the chat, maybe on social media as well, if you want to go over them later on. And say too. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Noah. Anyone have any specific questions for Noah before we go into breakout rooms?